Commission, March 1st, 2022, meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Carnahan?
Here.
Mr. Foreman?
Present.
Mr. Sharp?
Here.
Ms. Nessbauer? Present. Mr. Becker?
Here.
Mr. Kapora?
Present.
Mr. Lupsting?
Here.
Mr. Oliphant is to be attending via Zoom. Mr. Austin?
Present.
Ms. Murr? Present. Mr. Flatus?
Present.
Ms. Abernathy? Present.
Is Mr. Oliphant online?
See him on Zoom. He is in the process of connecting.
Okay. Let us know when he jumps on.
I think *6, Don, to unmute.
Okay, item 1, resolution number 2021-04, zoning ordinance and zoning map. This has been deferred from the 1900s. Deferred from December 15th, 2021, January 19th, 2022, and February 16th. Mr. Austin, any comments?
This matter is before you for recommendation to the town council of the completed zoning ordinance text replacement ordinance, which has been worked on by this body for a long time and is being prosecuted consistent with the provisions of Indiana Code 36-7-4. The work is all your work. This is a town ordinance. You didn't have consultants come in, you did the work. And it's really long overdue for completion. Your action tonight would be by way of a motion, ultimately to certify a recommendation to the town council. Ultimately, the town council has the end word on legislations, and they'll consider your recommendation in their action. That item is an agenda item on the town council public meeting agenda this evening. So in the event there is a recommendation from you, they will consider that recommendation forthwith.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Austin. Mr. Oliphant is on the line. Don Oliphant, do you have any thoughts or comments regarding resolution 2021-04?
Not at this moment, no.
Okay. Building department. Anybody from the building department have any thoughts or comments, other than this is a miracle?
I'm glad to see it to this point, for
Okay.
sure. It's been a long time coming.
Okay. Any commissioners have any discussion on this matter?
I'd just like to let the public know that it's been a long haul, there's no question about it. We were working off of what I call the green book from, I think, 1988 or 89, I think, isn't it, Bob? And we tried to do a lot of common sense things within this to help our folks in town, to save them money, save them time, which equates to money, and maybe not have to come before the BZA for every little thing that they want to do. I won't get into many of the details and nuances. And lastly, we took a good look at some legacy type lots and housing that is in our town from before we were a town, to try to also help those folks improve their properties, et cetera, without so much red tape. So I think it's been a good collective. It's been a good collective effort, and I think that, it will help us. Will we have it perfect right out of the gate and the first time? No, maybe not. But we'll make every attempt to make it better as we move forward and keep the red pen out for a little bit, perhaps. But I think it's good. And Bob asked me if I would explain what legacy is. Essentially, perhaps people that have smaller lots that were here prior to the town's incorporation, that are residential properties in nature, we've created some new guidelines for them to make it easier for them to improve their properties. So, is that good enough? Yeah. So thank you. That's all, sir.
Okay. John Kapora.
I'm good. Glad it's done.
Mr. Sharp.
Glad it's done.
Okay. Heather?
I'm good, thank you.
Chuck? Anyone else have any thoughts or questions on this item before I read the script?
Yes, sir.
Okay. It's resolution number 2021-04. It's a resolution recommending that the town zoning ordinance number 496, text and zoning map, and all text and zone map amendments thereto be repealed and replaced, along with all ordinances or parts thereof in conflict herewith, and all matters related thereto. Would anyone like to make a motion to send a favorable recommendation to the town council regarding this item?
I'll make a motion, we send a favorable recommendation on resolution number 2021-04 and zoning ordinance and zoning map to the town council.
We have a motion by Mr. Kapoor. Do we have a second? Second by Chuck Becker. Roll call, please.
Mr. Carnahan?
Yes.
Mr. Foreman?
Yes.
Mr. Sharp?
Yes.
Ms. Stout? Yes. Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Kapura?
Yes.
Mr. Wilkening?
Yes. Motion carries. There are no more items for this Planning Commission special public meeting agenda. Does anyone have objections to an adjournment?
No, sir. No.
Okay. All right. Meeting's adjourned.
Hey, Jerry set a new record.
Paid attention, that's it. This meeting is called to order. This is a town council public meeting for March 1st, 2022. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance, a moment of silence, please.
In a moment of silence, Randy, we lost a good local guy named Jeff Hendricks, nicknamed Pony, worked in town for many years, so.
Thank you, John.
Keep it in your thoughts.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll
call.
Robert Carnahan.
Here.
John Foreman.
Present.
Julie Rivera. Here. Ralph Miller.
Present.
Colleen Sheehan. Here. Richard Sharp.
Here.
Randy Niemeyer.
Present.
Diane Pressley. Chris Galatas.
Present.
David Austin.
Present.
We start tonight with a very special recognition of 50 years of service for Denny Wilkening. And I know he was recognized at the public safety meeting for his tremendous contributions to this community in his role in the fire department for 50 years. But Denny's been much more than just that in this community. If there's someone that defines the word public service, it's him. We have been all made better because of his presence here in this town. And on the plaque that we'll be presenting this evening, it includes roles as serving on the town council. Denny was the Ward 5 representative before me. Plan commissioner, unsafe building commission, which he still serves on. The Hanover Central School Corporation School Board, Boys and Girls Club Board, and the Lake County Fire Chiefs Association. This is just to name a few of his contributions to our community. So it's rare that we get an opportunity to recognize someone like this who has dedicated so much of his life not to his own pursuits, but to make the place that he lives and raised his family and that we raise our families in a better place. So with that, I say thank you, Denny, for everything you've done. I'd like to kind of go to the council and if you want to share any stories or thoughts about Denny.
I would go out with them when they were doing fires, and I went out with them in the wintertime, and a lot of them had beards, and I saw them with icicles on their beards, and I was impressed. And then we had a fire down in Meyer Manor, and he was out there manning the hoses and stuff, and I worked very closely with him, and he's a good guy. And he complimented me. I was the only town council member that went over and visited him when he got his leg injured on 41. It's been a privilege to work with you.
Thank you. I would just say I've known Denny my whole life, and even when I was a little guy playing basketball, et cetera, he'd get up in the middle of the night and go on a fire call, and I thought, what in the heck? And then, of course, not only one of his sons, but both of his sons followed in his footsteps. And I thank you, Denny, for all your service, but I thank all the firemen that are behind you. So thanks again.
We all know how hard it is to get volunteers and that. I remember it was probably, Denny, one of the hardest times in your life when your wife passed away. I got a telephone call from Denny. Hey, Ralph, Barb was on your board over at the Boys and Girls Club. She's got 2 years left to be on that board. If it's okay with you and the Boys and Girls Club, I would like to fill her spot. Denny, you can't know what that meant. You know, volunteers are so hard to come by, and here, one of the hardest times in your life, you reached out to the kids in Cedar Lake. What can I do to help? Thank you.
Thank you, Ralph. I'd just like to thank Denny for everything he has done for the town of Cedar Lake. And it's a pleasure to serve with him on the Unsafe Building Commission right now. Thank you, Denny, for everything. Thanks, Richard.
Mr. Wilkening, Denny, after 50 years, I'm sure you're still not done helping out our town. Haven't really met anyone so universally respected and loved the way you are. So that says a lot, and I know this is just the end of one chapter, but I know you're going to keep going with your roles in town, and we all appreciate that.
I just want to thank you for your service, all the things you've done for the town with the fire department and all the other things. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Holly.
Mr. Wilkening, I don't have quite the history or memories everybody else does, but to see your accomplishments and your history with the community, I think it is something that we should all strive for, and I applaud you.
Dave?
Denny and I have had an interesting relationship for a long time.
I like the smile.
Yeah,
Right there, that
But please, let me emphasize, he entrusted me as a professional, he and Barb. He entrusted me as a representative of the town. And we got things done, and you were responsible for that. Sign of a life well lived, that you're being recognized. You're a wonderful guy, Denny. I really appreciate you and your family a lot. Thank you for what you've done.
Jill?
One day I am gonna get Denny a yellow PT Cruiser. We have joked about many things, but we have accomplished many things. From when I worked in the clerk's office all the way through unsafe building now. Getting these meeting packets ready when he was a council member. We did change that font size on that one document, so it was easier to read. But working together as a team to move the community forward.
Bill?
I have a lot of stories, but I'll keep them between us, Chief. I can only say that I don't know of a more dedicated individual to the town of Cedar Lake and the people. Some people may have taken him wrong from time to time, but his love for our community was second to none, maybe only second to Barb. She was probably just as much in love with our community as you were. And the amount of times we spent on the streets together and fires and, you know, watching Todd try to save a building and you laughing at him and telling me what he's doing wrong. There's so many stories. It's pretty.
Those are the stories we want to hear.
I'll tell you a quick one. So Denny had been in a traffic accident that I was actually on scene for, and yeah, I'm telling you. Denny had been in an accident, but you know, dedicated as he was on crutches at this house fire with his leg all braced up, and I looked at him, I'm like, Chief, what are you doing here? He's like, oh, I gotta make sure my guys are doing it right. So, in the midst of this fire, I don't know much about fires, but it started changing colors, and I looked at him, I said, that doesn't look good. He's like, nope, he's doing it wrong. And I said, what do you mean? And he starts yelling, Todd, we got this, and he starts telling him what's going on, and Todd literally rolls my Dad, I can burn this one down myself. I started laughing, and just the dedication is second to none, sir, and I love you so much, I hope you know that. Anything you ever need, you know I'm there for you, so congratulations, and I only hope that I can be as close to you for the community as you have been for the community, so thank you.
Tim?
No, I just want to say, I mean, the town just had its 50th anniversary a couple of years ago, so it's impressive to say that you can hear through it all. You've definitely left a mark on the community with the boys and you that will be forever here, so congratulations and awesome job.
Thanks, Tim. Chris, I know you don't have much history, but...
I'll just say that, coming from another community, and I don't have the history here in Cedar Lake yet, but I hope to, it's very difficult to find people that are willing to put such a length of time of their life into serving others. It's something that is very unique and very special, and this community is certainly a better place for having you. And as was stated here as well, you know, I look forward to getting to know you on the Unsafe Building Board. I look forward to getting to know your sons better, and what a servant leadership quality that you've handed down. It is just, again, very unique. And I do like the comment that you can burn the house down yourself. You gotta have humor in all of this, and if it's one thing I've got to know Chief Wilkening over right now, it's humor, so I'm sure you have the same. I look forward to getting to hear that. Thank you.
I want to share a couple of stories. As I mentioned earlier, I occupied the seat that Denny occupied before me, and I actually ran against Denny and won an election in 2010. But I remember throughout the campaign learning about what a town council member does and how they're supposed to conduct themselves and what the responsibility is. And I remember Denny as being part of the reason I even decided to run when he appointed me to the redevelopment commission in 2009 and 2010. But when it came to election night in November of 2010, the Democrats were at, I believe, Harry O's, and the Republicans were counting the voting tapes at the After Four Club. And after the votes were all counted and it was clear that I had won, Denny drove over to the After Four Club and congratulated me and gave me a hug and said into my ear, "Tonight Cedar Lake won." So I'll never forget the humility that you showed that evening. And after that, you invited me in to make sure that I was ready for this. And now in my 12th year, in my last year on the council, I'm even more appreciative of that night because you made this opportunity for me to contribute to my community possible with your humility and grace that evening. So personally, I say thank you for that. Also, there was a big moment in 2013 at a meeting of the volunteer fire department that I was at as the town was going through the process of merging the volunteer fire department into become a municipal fire department. And we were going back and forth. I was sitting at the head table with Dean and Todd, and the membership were asking questions, and I was doing my best to answer them as still kind of a green councilman in my second year as a council president. And after everybody had a chance to speak, then he stood up in the back of that room and he said, "If he says that he's going to do these things, then I believe him, and we're going to vote yes on this thing." And it's because of him that we have a municipal fire department, because of that leadership and that willingness to take the chance to step out of the way we'd always done it and into a new chapter. And I think that we've fulfilled that promise that we made back then, that we would grow the department, invest in personnel, invest in equipment. And now after a conference call the other day, we have a pretty clear path to building a new public safety facility, starting with getting the pieces together and the financial parts of it together this year. So we had a very positive call with the financial advisor and our team that this is going to happen now. We're ready for it. We have the capacity to do it. But it was because of your leadership back then that we're even in this position. So your legacy will live in that new facility because you created that platform through your leadership of your team and their faith in you and trust in you. And I've come to trust you in that same manner. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for everything you've done. And I look forward to continuing to work with you and supporting you in your public service, but hopefully being a friend for a long time to come.
Thank you, Ed.
Thank you, Denny.
Maybe I think the whole council should go out there and give this to them like the public safety went out.
Everybody's welcome to come out, Bob.
Shortest distance between 2 points. Short line. Short line. Straight line.
I hope you have space for more flags.
No, 17 people don't understand.
What's up, buddy? Nice job, Dan. I'll stand next to Bob so I look tall. I'm not standing on that.
Let's balance the room a little bit. Not everybody can stand on one side.
Put the shorter ones in the front.
Okay, who we
Here we
looking
go,
at?
right? Look it up here, ready? 3, 2, 1.
Okay.
I gotta say something, huh? Thank you.
You get one picture
Oh, these
here quick. If you don't mind.
I don't mind your hiding.
Todd, do you want to take a moment to roast your dad before he
You and Dean go get
You want me to stand up here by myself?
Yeah.
Come on, let me sit in a chair here for a minute.
Hold on, let me get a picture with the boys.
Well, the first thing I'd like to say is police chief's lying. I don't think that event ever happened. I don't remember it. I don't remember it. It's like fire chief math, it's like fire chief memory.
You remember, right?
So,
Here we go.
He told me to get back in the truck.
He did. 3, 2, 1.
That's awesome.
Thank you. You know, we talk about burning buildings down. And, I guess I'm shooting myself in the foot here when I say it, but I became chief in '85, and, we burned half the town down in '85. Some pretty big buildings went down, was, Midway and Center Garage.
Cook Lounge.
And I'm not gonna sit here and say that we could have saved either one of them, because we couldn't. They had such a good start on us, so. But anyway, I didn't think, I was hoping that, this night would never come, or this day would never come, that I had to retire, because I enjoyed the fire department so much. A great bunch of guys we have. We had back then, and we have now. We got paramedics now, which we never had before, and EMTs. And so, well, we had EMTs, but anyway, I think they're very well equipped down there to handle about anything that comes up in our town right now. I got a little cheat card here. I got it because I don't remember things very well. And so, yeah, I'm very proud of our department. Like I said, I'm very proud of the men too. Another thing is that I'm proud of my two sons that have supported me all the way through this. Todd and Dean, dry mouth here. Todd and Dean, and without them, I don't think I would have got to where I was at today. So I appreciate that very much for following in my footsteps, guys. Another person that I gotta thank is my wife. She's not here. I know she's here, but she's looking down on us. I gotta say a few things about her, because she was a big part of my career on the fire department as far as the support. The first year, when I got on, I was down there all the time. And so, there was an old saying in the fire service that the wives used to say, why don't you take your bed down there and sleep down there? Okay? So I told her, I says, I can't do that. She says, why? Because I said, we both sleep in the same bed. So, take that for what it's worth. It wasn't all that funny, she didn't think, but anyway. But anyway, she joined the auxiliary after the first year, and they were down there, we were out on calls and whatever, and they always came down and they made food for us, and they had coffee, and the auxiliary was a big part of our department. So with that, we used to have a radio operator, because that's the only way we could communicate back and forth from the fire scene to the station. So if I needed, or any officer needed equipment from another department, they had to call our station, then they went through our department to dispatch to other departments south. So that way, so anyway, long story short, we taught her how to run the radio, so she liked it so much that she almost beat me down to the fire station to get on the radio, because she really liked it, so, and that always took one, you know, if we had to put a firefighter on the radio, that meant we had to, have one less on the fire scene, so it came in very handy that she did that. Town departments, working with everybody in the town all the years, all the support we got from everybody, from the office, all the different departments. It was really a great thing to have available to you, because you never know when we need one another for certain things, so, but other than that, I thank the council again for the beautiful plaque, and my sister came tonight to watch me stand up here and make a fool out of myself, and my daughter-in-law Julie, and my future daughter-in-law Dana, Dean and Dana just got engaged, so I don't know the rest of the story, so. But anyway,
And that's the part you're not gonna know.
thanks, everybody, appreciate it. I wanna say one thing, and I've been around a long time, but I think this is one of the best councils that I've ever seen down here. Really have, and I'm not brown-nosing anybody, because I don't have to, okay? So.
We've never known you two, Denny.
No. And Dave, it's been great working with you too. And I hope to hell you don't run out of red ink.
He hasn't.
I just have one thing to say. Thanks to the council for supporting not just my dad, but the firefighter with 50 years of service is a long time. Don't believe all the stories he tells you, because some of them you just can't remember. About us burning buildings, that doesn't happen.
Sounds logical.
And at the end of the day, I just want everybody to know my dad's my hero. I learned everything I could from him to fight fires, response, and I just took it from the old school to the newer school. And he brought the fire department from the older school to 2005, and it's my job to take it into the future, and we're doing that. Not without his opinion, I can tell you that right now. I get it all the time. But you know, his legacy, Chief Bob Eberly, Martin Saberniak, all these guys going back, were good chiefs in this department, growing this department. And after I'm gone, there'll be another chief to take the place and keep it going any further. But guys like my dad with 50 years of service are stellar people, and his picture could be on the wall back there with some of the archive people. We'll wait till you die, probably that, but not tomorrow. So, thank you.
Picture proof of that tonight.
Well, I appreciate everyone's patience in allowing us this opportunity to have such a great moment here for the kind words, Denny. We have public comment on agenda items. We have public comment on agenda items. Public comment on agenda items. Yours will be at the end. Okay. No public comment. We have our consent agenda, the minutes of the February 1, 2022 and February 15, 2022 meetings. Claims, all town funds, $276,413.97. Wastewater operating, $163,745.37. Water utility, $17,674.75. Stormwater, $20,566.24. And payroll for 2/17 and 3/1 of 2022 of $248,114.46. acceptance of 2022 allocation table and use waiver for the Board of Elections use of Town Hall for polling place. That'll be on May 3rd, 2022. Is there a motion to accept and waive the reading of the minutes and accept the consent agenda as listed?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Foreman, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Sheehan, questions or discussion? Roll call, please.
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Julie Rivera?
Yes.
Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Colleen Scheven?
Yes.
Richard Sharp?
Yes.
Randy Neemeyer?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. Item 1, ordinance number 1402, zoning ordinance amendment. This is a single reading. This will be the potential adoptive reading. Mr. Sharp, by its title, please.
Ordinance number 1402, an ordinance amending town zoning ordinance number 496 and all amendments thereto being an ordinance replacing zoning ordinance number 278 entitled Cedar Lake, Indiana zoning ordinance passed and adopted by the Board of Trustees of the town of Cedar Lake, Indiana, and all amendments passed subsequent thereto, repealing zoning ordinance number 278 and all amendments thereto and all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, establishing new comprehensive zoning regulations for the town of Cedar Lake and providing for the administration, enforcement, and an amendment thereof in accordance with the provisions of the Indiana state statutes.
Thank you, Mr. Sharp. You've heard the reading of ordinance 1402. Mr. Austin.
This is the single reading that is needed to adopt this ordinance. The ordinance repeals ordinance 496, which was adopted in December 1989, and all of its amendments to the present. It also repeals the zoning map to the extent we had a zoning map, and replaces it with a modern 21st century map, which is behind you. Jill has put that up for you to see. This ordinance was the result of gargantuan effort by your Plan Commission and staff. They worked very hard over a 5-year period to bring it from thought process and BS to reality and law. That's what you have tonight. You're in the 21st century with this instrument. I like the comment earlier about nothing's perfect. This is probably not perfect, but it's a lot farther down the path than we were, and it gives our citizens a very solid foundation in our zoning law here. It also helps your staff in administering the provisions of the zoning regulations uniformly, based upon experience, based upon the experiences of our citizens and our fellow neighbors, and puts us in a position to go forward really solidly. If in fact there's consideration tonight to adopt, you have favorable certification from your Plan Commission. My suggestion would be that to withhold signatures pending, say, a week's worth of time for anybody who wants to read it, check or any confirmation items or verification items. I'm here to tell you that I have reviewed it incredibly carefully, and I know your staff has also after the last readings. There were 3 meetings at which public hearings were conducted, or the public hearing was conducted. It was commenced in December, and 2 subsequent meetings was continued for further review. So it's here after a tremendous amount of scrutiny. That's the report.
Thank you. Okay, so we've heard the single reading of ordinance 1402 as well as an explanation. It has a favorable recommendation from the Plan Commission. Is there a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Rivera, is there a second?
I'll second Julie's motion.
Second by Mr. Foreman. Are there questions or discussion on the motion?
I did hear the attorney suggest possibly withholding it for a few days.
Holding signatures.
For holding the signatures for a few days. I guess I'm okay with that, but at the same time, it's kind of like we've been beating that horse for many, many meetings and many, many months and years. So if anybody had any inquiries, what have you, and they've inquired into any past minutes, they knew what we've been up to. So.
Councilman Parker and I started talking about this in 2011. So it's been going on for
We had
quite a while.
lots of heated arguments at the plan commission meetings with Craig over do's and don'ts and goods and bads,
Yes.
and it was fun. He was a big
Moment.
contributor to making this successful, quite honestly.
Thank you, Mr. Foreman. Any other questions or discussions?
It's ready to go if you want it to go.
That's right.
There being none, roll call vote.
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Julie Rivera?
Yes.
Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Colleen Scheven?
Yes.
Richard Sharp?
Yes.
Randy Neiman?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. BZA Plan Commission, item 1 is grand prize cars, Majeski, variance of use to allow 2 uses on 1 lot. This received a favorable recommendation from the BZA on 2/10/2022. Doesn't make sense. Deferred on 2/15/2022. Mr. Austin, any comments on the record?
Yeah, Mr. President, council members, this is a rather convoluted piece of land in which there have been several land use approvals processed over the past 6 or 7 months related to business use. It's in what I would term a legacy area of the community where structures and business uses existed. So there's been a 1-lot subdivision platted. There's a business use been restored as a consequence of that. This particular business needed and had parking prior to the 1-lot subdivision and the other use going into place. The request was for the continued use on the now platted lot of 6 cars. The certification you have, based upon the recommendation of the Plan Commission, was favorable by a 3 in favor, 2 opposed vote. So it was very highly reviewed and assessed. Your certification shows you the conditions. It's for this petitioner only. The parking is to be defined, striped. The use changes or the petitioner is no longer using the property, the variance granted, or to be considered at least, will end, it'll terminate. So that was the position that the BZA finished its review of this matter in a public hearing.
Thank you. We have a favorable recommendation from the BZA for use variance. Is there a motion to approve the request based on the favorable recommendation of the BZA?
Is the petitioner here, by the way?
No.
Mr. Majeski or whatever? Okay.
Is there a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the use as spelled out by the BZA.
Thank you. Motion by Mr. Foreman. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Sharp.
Mr. President,
Mr. Austin.
could that motion be based upon, or add the conditions of recommendation from the BZA?
With
Certification
the
contains them.
conditions of the recommendations by the BZA.
Concur?
And I'll second that.
Thank you. We have an amended motion in concurrence. Questions or discussion? I have discussion item on this particular property. We have a very unique situation. I've watched all the BZA meetings, and some very long, and these are needed discussions, actually, as we look at the zoning map and our update to our comp plan of 41 is pretty much a B3 corridor. I think it would be wise for the property owner, Mr. Henn, to get this parcel cleaned up so it's no longer meets and bounds in any part of it. The whole thing becomes a lot of record, needs a subdivision plat, it needs the right things done to the parcel, because there's actually 3 businesses there. There's an auto body shop, the auto dealership, and a tire shop. And so in order for this to be a real functional piece, I don't know what we can do to encourage Mr. Henn to move forward on cleaning this up, but it would be very good for everyone, including Mr. Majeski, any users today and any future users, if this was cleaned up. So can we take any steps to encourage that, to get Mr. Hen to the table to work with our staff on making that happen?
Well, I would suggest that you invite him to a meeting here in Town Hall and discuss the area. There's a global concern in this area about the legacy, kind of improvements on the legacy style zoning. And the solution benefits him as well as it benefits us.
Yeah, at some point, if the family wants to sell it, you gotta go through this whole song and dance again with any future users.
There's no question, it has uniqueness to it.
So those are my comments. Any other questions or discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Julie Rivera?
Yes.
Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Colleen Scheven?
Yes.
Richard Sharp?
Yes.
Randy Neimeyer?
No, motion carries 6-1. Thank you. Item 1 under new business is Robert W. Baird and Company engagement letter for underwriting and placement agent. Mr. Austin?
This is the underwriter that will place our, price our financing for our bond issues.
And again, last night, the Redevelopment Commission and Redevelopment Authority both passed resolutions making the transfers necessary for the lease revenue bonds to occur, so everything is in order. And with this action tonight, we are on our way to finally getting this thing done.
Unbelievable. On the same night Denny gets his 50th year. It only took 50 years, Denny.
Yeah.
We're getting ECO kicked off.
Okay, so is there a motion by the council to approve the agreement for Robert W. Baird and Company for underwriting and placement?
Motion to approve.
Thank you. Motion by Mr. Foreman. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Rivera. Questions or discussion? Roll call, please.
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Julie Rivera?
Yes.
Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Colleen Scheven?
Yes.
Richard Sharp?
Yes.
Randy Neimeyer?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. Item 2 is year 2022 Farmers Market Agreement discussion. We have the brilliant lady who runs the farmers market here with us this evening. Kelly Dykstra, if you would care to come forward. First of all, a heartfelt thank you to what you're doing here. You've really put this on the map. I remember when you first came to the meeting with this vision and thought you might have a dozen or so vendors, and now this has turned into an absolute destination place, and it's because of your leadership and your vision that that's happened, so thank you for your contributions. Mr. Austin, is there any major highlights that we should be aware of?
No, this is...
Looks like same as last year.
It does.
There was just a couple things that needed to change on like the setup time and stuff, so I did email that to Margaret.
Yeah, I did not see.
Can you dictate that for the record?
Sure, so we wanted to be able to have our staff show up as early as 9 a.m. to start putting chairs and signs and things out, and then the vendors to be able to start coming at 11 to set up.
You have staff now?
Just a couple.
Holy smokes, it's amazing.
And then also it said that the market goes from 3 to 7, it's 3 to 8.
3 to 8.
Until we get the fall, and then it goes to 7, so those
Okay.
are just a couple of things we needed to change.
Let the record reflect the comments, and Ms. Dykstra, please. Did council have any questions or comments?
No, I think it's a great event, and
Oh, it's great.
it's a lot of hard work that she puts into it to bring the vendors here, and week over week, a lot of people continue to come, so it's a testament to your good organizational skills.
Do you have a waiting list now for vendors to come?
Yeah, we definitely
did
had
last
like
year,
72, yeah,
Yeah.
but it's still kind of early, so.
Holy smoke, how many are you expecting so far?
We can't fit any more than 140.
Oh, that's
so.
it? Well, thank you again for tremendous work and
Thanks.
what you're doing, appreciate it. Any other discussion by the council?
Mr. President?
Yes.
If I may, I would just ask council to consider possibly increasing that base rate that's stipulated in the agreement, just because with the growth of the event and all the folks that do come out to enjoy it, we have seen an increase in our costs when it comes to personnel on the ground.
What's your recommendation, Jen, on the increase?
What is the amount right now?
$50
What is
And
it?
then,
It's 150 right now,
and then $5
after
per,
40.
yes.
after 40 vendors? Yeah.
Per vendor after 40?
Chris, did you write it down? I didn't write.
Yeah, it's right
my
here.
notes with me earlier.
Yeah. That's correct as to what it's at. We had this discussion in a department head meeting. The extreme success of the event has put a small strain on us with requiring a lot more staff time. We had tossed around some possible numbers, but obviously we've not brought anything up to the council, and it was literally just discussed this morning as far as.
Well, I think with the $5 per vendor, it's success, we're getting some kickback. It's still a community event, community benefits. She only did it this past year. I'm okay keeping it as is.
Okay. What, you have any?
Ask a question? What additional, increase in staff do you have to provide per the seasons before?
I can't speak to anything prior, because I have to apologize, this is my 4th week here.
Get up to speed.
Yeah. Jen?
So we have one person from Public Works who always works a couple extra hours those evenings, the nights of the market, the Wednesday nights. And then I spoke with our custodian this morning, and there are quite a bit of cleanup hours she does on the grounds on the Thursday mornings after.
But if she has, how many vendors was your peak last year?
It was the same the last 2 seasons, 140.
140.
So 100 vendors.
So if you have $500 from the 100 excess over 40 plus the 150 base fee, that's $650.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. It seems like a decent amount to cover overtime.
It doesn't sound unreasonable.
Right,
Sounds pretty
I'm
fair to
agreeing.
me.
I think keep it the way it is.
Yeah, I'm with you, John.
I mean, you guys would know, you would know the numbers better from an overtime standpoint, but I wouldn't think it would meet 650.
I didn't have a chance to throw exact numbers together.
And I also look at, hey, you know what, all these folks are stopping, spending money at local businesses, helping our town. And that's really what it's about.
Okay.
As much as anything. So I think, we keep it the same.
Any other discussion on this? Anyone would care to make a motion on this agreement?
I'd like to make a motion for the year 2022 farmers market agreement
I'll
for
second.
approval.
We have a motion and a second, and would that
Who seconded
include?
it?
That was Colleen. Would that include Mr. Foreman and Ms. Sheehan, the citation of the record that Ms. Dykstra made about the times of operation, as well as the staffing hours and the vendor hours?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Sure.
We also have Dave, I believe, it may just require the update of dates, but they have either update the contract. So what you have in front of you is the 2021 contract.
Okay, any other questions or any questions or discussion? Roll call?
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Julie Rivera? Yes. Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Colleen Sheehan?
Yes.
Steve Moore?
Yes.
Randy Engmeyer?
Yes, motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 3 is acknowledgement and acceptance of a permanent easement, Centennial Villas, Phase 1. Mr. Salatas?
This was, I believe, this is the second one were dropped off or sent into the office, for your acceptance. I believe this is, and I think Dave, we may have spoken about this, or was it Jill?
This is
Part of a larger project?
This is part of Beacon Point and Centennial Villas. There was some permanent easements that are overlapping. This is to clean up the plating process. Attorneys have been working on this document, if my memory is serving me correct, as well as our engineer and DVG on getting this all cleaned up. This is the permanent easement that will need to be recorded for the future and cleanup of those flats.
Lots of engineers involved in this one. Sanitary sewers need to be located correctly. There were several different pieces of land that were subject to platting based upon the phasing of same by the developers. And there were 2 developers involved, at least at one time. Schilling has taken the point on this document and the grant of the easement needed, and that's what you have before you. This was prepared by Attorney Hunt. I did see it. I have reviewed the content. The content is accurate against the plat map that shows the parcel legally described.
Thank you, Mr. Austin. Thank you, Jill.
You're welcome.
Is there a motion by the council?
Motion to, the acknowledgement and acceptance of the permanent easement, favorable recommendation. Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Mr. Foreman, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Sharp, questions or discussion?
One item to note for the
Yes,
record.
ma'am.
Can we note that the permanent easement agreement was by and between Beacon Point of Cedar Lake LLC? I know it's noted Centennial Villas on your agenda, and that's a portion of it, but it's between the town and Beacon Point of Cedar Lake LLC.
Thank you. Let the record reflect the correction.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or discussion? Roll call?
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Julie Rivera?
Yes.
Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Colleen Scheeman?
Yes.
Richard Sharp?
Yes.
Randy Neiman?
Yes, carry 7-0. Item 4 is acknowledgement and acceptance of permanent easement at 7303 West 126th Avenue. Mr. Salatas, Mr. Austin.
I'm not sure which specific project this is in regards to. You're gonna have a lot more of these coming up ahead as we have multiple projects that need easements.
Mr. Austin?
This is Mr.
This
Hughes.
project is related to the hilltop area and the improvements proposed there. This was an easement that has been sought for, what, about 3 years, Jill?
Yeah, this is for your Highland Road project.
The second phase of that Highland project, actually.
Okay. There a motion by the council to approve the acknowledgement and acceptance of permanent easement at 7303 West 126th Avenue.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Sharp, is there a second?
Second.
Who seconded it? Second by Mr. Carnahan.
Mr. President.
Yep.
Record should reflect, I did prepare this. I've amended it a number of times or changed it for change of owners, change of years, et cetera. The form is in good shape. It's in legal proper order.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Julie Rivera?
Yes.
Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Colleen Scheeman?
Yes.
Richard Sharp?
Yes.
Randy Neiman?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. Item 5 is the purchase of 4 black vehicles, with 3 of them having ghost graphics by the police department. This received a favorable recommendation from the Board of Safety at their February 23rd, 2022 meeting. Chief Fisher.
Yeah, council, so I got a phone call from Thomas Dodge, who was our low bidder last year. They had a department that had ordered squad cars in 2021 that backed out, and he called me to let me know. The issue was that the vehicles were ordered in black versus white. We did attempt to change that order through Dodge, but we're unable to. And I would not have put it in front of you other than the fact that we're getting the cars at 2021 prices versus the $7,000 increase per car in 2022 prices. So we're going to save about pretty close to $30,000 by buying these cars. The ghost graphics, maybe it's not said correctly, but they're highly visible. As soon as light hits them, they turn instant white so you can see what it is. Many departments are going to them. As a full department, we are not. We're going to stay with our current graphics, but we're getting these cars at such a phenomenal cost that, I approached the Board of Safety and they were in favor of a recommendation. I've talked to Jen about it extensively and we're good to go. I mean, I know I have the funds for new cars already, but we'll probably save at least $30,000, just to get these cars.
Okay, very
You're
good.
not worried about scaring kids with ghost graphics, Bill?
They're called ghosts, I actually have a picture I could show you, but they're not, they're highly visible, so they're highly reflective, so. They're just really highly reflective. From the side, they look more gray, but as soon as you shine a light on them, they stand out very white. So.
Thank you, Chief. We have a favorable recommendation from the Board of Safety, a 5-0 vote. Is there a motion by the council to approve the purchase of the 4 black vehicles, based on the favorable recommendation?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Miller, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Sheehan, questions or discussion?
So these are 4 additional cars? I was confused a little bit.
They're the new cars we wanted to order this year.
Okay, they are the ones.
And they are,
Okay.
cars, they are not SUVs.
Gotcha. Thank you.
I like that.
I know.
Thank you.
They're actually, all-wheel drive 6-cylinder, so they will work, our purpose is.
Just to say how good those cars are, I saw a video of a car that chased a 4x4 Chevy into the mountains in Utah through the snow. This guy thought he was gonna get away from a cop car, didn't realize it was an all-wheel drive Charger, and the Charger was right up the mountain. So I said,
And that's why we went.
look, Chief Fisher doesn't need all the big monster trucks. Perfect.
It's the space, sir. I can explain it to you. You don't understand the space when you're in that thing for 8 hours or longer, so. But
I
yeah,
do.
It's all-wheel drive.
Having a truck.
And your trucks are huge.
Way to try to fool the crowd. You got a player there, don't you?
But yeah, their trucks are huge.
You are right.
But they're all-wheel drive, just like you said, which is most important for us because wintertime, you know, they get around with no problem.
Yeah, very good. Any other questions or discussion? Roll call?
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Julie Rivera?
Yes.
Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Colleen Scheven?
Yes.
Richard Sharp?
Yes.
Randy Neiman?
Yes, motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.
Item 6 is appointment of new Stormwater Board member, Mr. Salatas.
I did the interviews as requested, and my recommendation would be, although it was very difficult to choose between the two, because they were both very qualified, and it's unfortunate we don't have more positions available, but would be Benji Cleo. Sure I'm butchering that, that's the best pronunciation I can give you right now.
We have a recommendation from the town manager of Benji, with the butchered last name. So, is there a motion by the council to approve the appointment as recommended by the town manager?
Make a motion to approve.
Motion by Ms. Rivera, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Sharp, questions or discussion? Chris, if this is approved, please contact the gentleman. Let's get him sworn in, get all of his tax documents done so we can get him to work.
Good idea.
Any other questions or discussion? Roll call?
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Julie Rivera?
Yes.
Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Colleen Scheven?
Yes.
Richard Sharp?
Yes.
Randy Neiman?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. We have reports. Town Council, Mr. Carnahan, the floor is yours.
Last night I reported at redevelopment that the chamber was having a luncheon on March 9th, but I was informed today that the superintendent can't do it on March 9th, it will be on March 8th. Tuesday at Cedar Lake Ministries, the Crown Point superintendent will be there, and the lunch will cost $16.50.
Thank you, Mr. Carnahan. Any other council reports?
I'd just like to say, hey, a great thanks to everybody who's served on the Eco Restoration Committee over the years, Bob Carnahan, previous folks that were involved with the lake project, Julie, Ralph, and the council here, sitting here tonight, and everybody involved in getting everything we did over the last decade over the finish line. It's a monumental task that we achieved after investigating what we investigated early on with trying to get some federal money, et cetera, to reverting back to us doing it ourselves and in a more timely, efficient manner. It was quite remarkable. So thank you to everybody sitting up here, and look forward to making, seeing a dewater facility start happening off Birch Avenue pretty soon. So it's unbelievable.
We're finally the council that was able to put it on campaign material that we're gonna get this done.
Get it done.
So we did.
That's right.
Just to piggyback, John, I also
Yeah.
want to thank Jill, since she's here tonight, for all her help in the eco restoration, moving it forward, all the countless phone calls, than the meetings, and if we weren't there, you breaking it down for us, and telling us exactly what happened, all the detailed reports, that was a big part of, you know, what you did, and I appreciate you as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, I can't agree more, but in fact, a couple trips to Chicago and one to Washington, right, Bill?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
like
I
an
think
8-hour
Kate's
day, and I got back on
goal
the
was to
plane.
get me on a plane, planes, trains, and automobiles,
Yeah.
subway, taxi,
So it's
all
good
those
stuff.
things you don't experience right here in Cedar Lake little area.
Yeah, very
She had
cool
me
stuff.
experience every mode of transportation to go to those meetings.
Did you take her for a snowmobile ride afterwards?
No, but I'll bet you if she would've go, she actually loves it.
So that's all, Mr. President.
Thank you. Council, any other reports? I have one report, as I mentioned earlier, myself, Town Manager Salatas, Mr. Austin, Corby Thompson, and Mark Griffith from Veritas Group had a conference call to talk about the proposed improvements to town facilities. It was determined in that call that the town has the capacity to issue the debt that will be needed to build the public safety facility. However, we won't be able to use fire chief math on this. We've got a number we're working with right now. We've got a,
I don't want to. What's the number? Come on, tell me the number and I'll let you know.
well, listen,
Don't tell
let me finish first. The number is gonna include a fire station, police station, and a remodel of this place. That's the current proposal that we're putting together from a financial standpoint. It would be $10 million is what we're working with right now in a budget to put together a plan. You start creeping up higher than that, you start getting to the point of having to go to referendum for it. So we've got about 20 million of capacity total, but if you get over the 15 million, we're looking at a pretty difficult financial road ahead to do that, and it will definitely impact tax rates significantly at that point, as well as impact the capacity of the town to do other projects. So it's important to keep a conservative approach, build very functional, modern buildings that'll last, and make sure that this serves the public, which is our main goal.
You know, Randy, and I wasn't at any of those meetings, but it sure seems to me that raising this building, but building a building in this type of a length by turning it maybe 90 degrees and then trying to do a private-public partnership where we could then put some shops or some boutiques of what have you next to the town hall would be better because it doesn't
You're right,
block the view of the
but we
lake.
can't start a
and
project
we
with
can
that.
we can move from here right into a turnkey building and rock and roll.
But we would never start the project if that was what we were basing this on.
Is that right?
Right. Because you would have to have your public-private partnership in place before you can start it.
Right.
So we're starting it with a budget, like we did the lake project. You gotta have a budget.
Yes.
You gotta have a target.
Yes.
And then you can build the pieces around it.
Sure.
Just like what we're doing with
We
this.
have that target and that finance set aside, and then we let possible investors know this is what we'd like to try to do. It encourages this to be a destination spot with a few more shops, and we know that there's some land across that something's going to happen with that could also spawn some additional.
John, you're 100% correct. That's
Economic
also
development.
why Veritas is a good partner, because they have all of those connections around the state of
Sure.
people that do those sorts of projects.
Sure.
But in order to start this and not be stuck in the mud like we have on a million things,
Yeah, we gotta get off
we
the.
have to start with a goal and
Yeah.
then build it from there.
Yeah.
So setting that number at 10 million, I think, is a number that, just to start, looks like it'll have minimal tax impact on our residents.
Right.
Which is important because we've all walked the town of Cedar Lake several times, going door to door, and people will not respond well to a government Taj Mahal.
But a partial remodel of this scares me.
But that's the initial goal, John, is
Yeah, I'm with you.
addressing, 3 buildings, basically, 2 separate sites,
Gotcha.
2 buildings.
Gotcha.
We gotta start somewhere to get the financing going, to get the whole process, engage with architects. And then while we're in that process, we talked to Veritas about, hey, see if you got some partners that wanna look at a redevelopment plan here.
Sure.
You add that in on the back end,
Rather
but if we do it on the front end, we're just gonna be spinning our wheels.
Fair enough. Thank you.
So this is just about getting started. The council will be, as engagements come in front of us, the council will be considering all these engagements, talking about final numbers and budgets and financing, so there's a lot of work to do. But I wanted to report on the call we had, it was very positive, and it looks like we're gonna be able to make this thing happen finally. So, a very exciting report to give. These are gonna be great public buildings and hopefully facilitate continued growth of our departments. Dave, any comments on that?
Yeah, thank you, Randy. Having a target, having a goal, having an objective is critical. Bob Carnahan and I sat in a meeting in this town hall in December 2007 with Congressman Visclosky's staff. They pounded the table and said, we have $5 million, but you have to do X, Y, and Z. And if you don't tell us you're doing that, we're not, $5 million's gone. Well, look where we're at today. We're going to bond about $5.9 million, and we've come close to that target. There's going to be some more money. There's going to be some other aspects to it. But having a target, staying on course, always turns out to be the right way to go.
Instead of 25 million.
Instead of where it was, that's right. I don't know if it, did he get that high, John?
22.
22. What's 3 million, my friend?
He would have been 25.
Yeah,
By the time it was dark, easily, yeah.
With the government, it would have been that probably, so. But anyway, that's kind of prescient how that turned out.
So, again, as Chris works with Veritas and our financial advisor, and we start to get this picture put together, there's going to be lots of items for consideration here, as well as working with our two chiefs to make sure that the facilities are something that we can grow with. But it's exciting. I mean, I'm pumped up about this. You know, we did a heck of a nice remodel to the fire department. I got to see that. I've been in the police department, and we are crammed in here like sardines, and Jen can attest with the staff in the town hall. There is no more room for anything. So separating the town hall from the police and fire would be great to create a little more space. And like you said, it does give us a good opportunity here, John, that as this goes through the process, to seek partners.
Yeah, absolutely.
And make a total redevelopment project out of it. Any other council reports? Town attorney?
You are nearing the conclusion of the rate case in Indianapolis on the system development charges. As I have reported to you, negotiations resulted in a liquidation or disposition, if you will, of our petition. The anticipated settlement will continue the $2,560 system development charge rate east side. It will permit $3,200 system development charge rate west side. It will have conditions for matching those two rate amounts up by way of interconnection and confirmation of same, so that both sides are on one system, if you will. There are some procedural items that have been included that are related to our use of system development charge rates and reporting responsibilities therefore. With your permission, with your approval, that should result in a settlement, and the hearing set for Thursday in Indianapolis will be obviated. I would solicit your consideration of that on the public record.
Thank you. You're looking for a motion to settle?
Please.
You've heard the presentation of an agenda item. Is there a motion to amend the agenda?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Miller. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Sharp. The agenda item is to give direction to commence the settlement of our system development charge rate case. Is there a motion by the council to approve the settlement?
Do we vote on amending the agenda first?
I'm sorry.
I would like to make a motion.
Roll call vote on the...
Okay.
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Julie Rivera? Yes. Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Colleen Sheehan? Yes. Richard Sharp?
Yes.
Randy Neiman?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. Thanks, Bob, it's my first meeting. Is there a motion, to, direct the settlement of the water rate case as presented by the town attorney?
I'll second, or make a motion to make the settlement to our rate case, on behalf of the, or give direction to make the settlement.
Your
on
first
behalf of
meeting,
our rate
Mr. Johnson?
case. Thank you. Second meeting, Randy. Thank you.
I'll second that.
I abbreviated, I couldn't remember what I
Motion
abbreviated.
by Mr. Foreman, second by Mrs. Sharp. Questions or discussion?
That's good stuff.
I think that's a so.
Roll call?
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Julie Rivera? Yes. Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Colleen Sheehan? Yes. Richard Sharp?
Yes.
Randy Neiman?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. Thank you, Mr. Austin.
Thank you.
Good one, John. Clerk treasurer?
Council, the annual financial report has been completed and submitted on Gateway. The annual debt management report was completed and submitted on Gateway. I'm all caught up with my Gateway reports.
All timely?
Ones that are due as of today. And I just wanted to note to you all that at your next meeting, my chief deputy will be sitting in for me because I will be at clerk treasurer's school for the week.
Very good. Thank you, Jen. Town manager.
I'd just like to report that we finally got the...
Self-promotion.
Town manager. I was like ready.
Now that was excellent.
I missed the town manager completely on my list. Sorry, Chris.
No, that couldn't have been more perfect.
That's Tim Love to get out of here.
Go ahead, Chris.
That's Tim's first meeting too. Come on now.
As you alluded to, we're, for Veritas, and the public safety building or project, me and the two fire chiefs will be interviewing along with Veritas, our owner's rep, on Friday, 3 firms, in order to move forward with selecting one and, finally getting this project moving as you would like. I've received just today notification from the DNR, Indiana Department of Natural Resources, that our LAIR grant was approved. We got it.
Wow.
So that's $150,000, I believe, over 3 years.
Very good, thank you.
Another 450
Getting
in the
that,
rate
yeah,
project.
it's adding up.
That's great.
Yeah. We had our JMOP meeting in Lowell today. We went over a very, rather brief meeting, so that was nice. But one of the big things that may have stood out was that we had originally agreed, I believe in 2020, to a set of $2 million projects, which after receiving the bids back on one particular item, came back rather high. So we discussed some options in order to reduce the cost of those projects. We'll be having another meeting likely here the next 30 days to see what the cost of the revised options are and how much that has reduced the project. Neil was there. It all seemed pretty straightforward, so we just will look forward to those costs. And then myself, Jen and Sue had met today to go over the CCMG funding for the road projects, CCMG and road project funding. So we're looking like it's, the money's there, we're gonna get it done.
Have we reformulated that stormwater allocation a little bit because of some of those cash concerns?
Yeah, we're probably gonna play with it a little bit more. We'll probably catch back up, well, I'll definitely catch back up with Sue tomorrow,
Okay.
but I imagine the 3 of us will have another meeting before the end of the week.
All right. Anything else, Chris?
I believe those are the big outstanding items.
Okay. Do you want to do the Director of Operations report too, since Tim tried to? He already did his report, go on.
I just wanted to say, we had Ortman finally out at the Lighthouse Wells. We have 2 drives, which we've been waiting for patiently for probably 6 months, but both wells are functioning. Wow. Everything's going in. They began doing the tests of that place, and they pumped 200 gallons a minute out of that well for quite a while, and without any water drop or anything, so things are moving in the right direction, so it's good to finally be doing it, so.
Awesome. That is,
That's all I got.
yeah, and I said earlier to Tim before the meeting, you guys should drive down Magoon over here, and I think it's Magoon, isn't it, or what is that road? What
That
is-
drive,
Well, no, getting the LAC, what is it called?
well, it's not Lagoon.
Binion. Drive down Binion and look at that new, lift station that Tim just completed with his team, it's unbelievable.
I went down to the one that was done and sent you all pictures of it.
Yeah, I remember seeing it in person is much more
Much more impressive.
Thank you.
Much
Much more impressive.
Chief Fisher?
Nothing at this time.
Thank you. Chief Wilkening?
Well, good. First thing I want to say is, our hybrid vehicle is, it's become a ghost as well. We don't see it very often. It's at Bozak again. We're having major, mechanical problems with it. They had it for a couple weeks, they had it down low for a couple weeks, or a week. They came back with a problem with 3 cylinders not firing properly, so we got all that taken care of, and now came back and the 4th cylinder's not firing properly, so it went back to Bozak and out in Portage, where we got it, so, they're bringing in, I guess, an engineer from Ford to try to figure out what the heck's going on with it, because it's become a pain in the butt for everybody to try to deal with.
Might be the Henway.
Stands for Found on Road Dead, right?
Yeah, as you were talking about the, public safety building, and we really appreciate everybody's work, Chief Fisher and I will, what we heard was that you have 9.9 million for us, another 10 available. So once we get started, it's a good start, we'll go ahead and relinquish $100,000 for this building, that's fine.
Somehow I knew this was gonna happen, Chief.
So we'll go ahead and get that started.
Eye, ear, nose, and
Dave,
throat
if you could get us the numbers by the weekend, we're gonna get this thing started.
eye, ear, nose, and throat.
The, tanker,
Yeah.
the new tanker is close to going on the road. It's been, we've been training with it, we got a good number of people trained with it. We're working with the township to get, some additional equipment for it, to, get it on the street, and some additional equipment we're gonna have to put on it as well. So we're working together to get that done. I would say the next 2 weeks, it'll be actually ready to be responding regularly. But the truck is able to go on calls now, the right people are driving. It's a good truck, it's gonna do us well, it's much appreciated, like I said before, I'm tickled to death to have that truck, so yeah, it's gonna be running around town, doing training, so if you see it out a lot, and we're not just tooling around, it's a truck that you really have to be careful driving, so, the younger generation in our department, has never seen anything like this to drive, so we have to.
Do they need any training on how to drive a tanker truck? I know someone that can do
Okay,
that.
yeah, come on down,
Sloshing around.
come on down.
Watch the roundabout.
Just drive over
Just a
there.
reminder, council affairs luncheon on, Monday at the fire station, in reference to our, don't forget, that's scheduled for Monday, in reference to our pension stuff that we're discussing. We've had some dialogue about that, to get.
And I believe that'll be our committee as well as our financial
Yes,
advisor.
they were all invited, and Jen, everybody responded, they're gonna be there, so.
Okay. And we'll have a full report for the council on what we discuss here as well,
Yeah.
so. A lot of work being done.
Your town manager probably won't be the same after he spends the whole day with Chief Fisher and I. We're gonna take him out and we're gonna do some, touring of the town, so we can kind of see the town from our eyes.
He's a man of great character, and I have a hard time believing that you'll break.
It'll be different after tomorrow.
Yeah, he'll be different after, but, what's nice is so far, I mean, we had a great working relationship so far. He's hit the ground running with us, and I really appreciate him jumping into some things that we have to get done, and, it's really good.
She said coming back.
Hopefully he'll be back.
You bet, I really appreciate she said coming back.
So, no, we're good.
Anything else,
That's
Chief?
it, that's it, thank you.
Thank you. Written communication. I believe we have our normal Christopher Burke engineering report, et cetera.
That's
Next week, next time.
Okay. Okay, Public comment. The gentleman's been waiting very patiently in the back, so I'll turn to you first. Leg fall asleep?
No,
Oh, okay.
when I sit for a long time, I lose my balance. Good evening, my name is Steve Matias, I live 131st place, right next to the Rosati's Pizza.
Thank you.
I was one of these meetings about 3-4 years ago. We have a big problem with 131st from Lakeshore Drive all the way to the Morrissey, at least 300 feet approximately. I can barely I got almost brand new house I built, and potholes is so bad. You guys can put in 3-4 times a year, fill up potholes, but water comes from the ground up and destroys the potholes because, well, the sewer is not adequate. Water got no place to go, and hitting straight up. They have to be repaired. And you guys promised me 3-4 years ago it's gonna be done next year. Now it's a 3rd-4th year, nobody's doing anything. Cannot solve the problem just patching potholes. You have to redo the street. So I don't know what you guys got up to, what we have to do.
Do we know where we're at on the asset management plan as it relates to his?
I know it's on the bottom of the barrel, roads to be done, it's on the list of roads to be done, but where it is in the queue, I couldn't tell you, but it is definitely in.
We will get you an idea of when you can expect to see action, Chris, and if you could get his name and number, and please follow up with him.
Yeah.
I do know it's on the list also. We've been attacking the list as the worst, and because you're on a hill, even though you may not feel
Are
like
you on
the
the
road's
flatland
worst,
up there, or are you on the hill?
No, I'm right next door to the pizza. I'm not on the bottom.
He's on the flat there, yeah.
And the water and
Is that
the
the bottom?
gravel comes right in my garage. I have to, every time it rains, I have to shovel I got brand new driveway. And I have to shovel then it goes straight down to the lake.
Right.
And nothing, I don't know, I'm gonna have flat tire in a minute. I have 3-4 holes about this deep. Okay? And if there's Rosati Pizza Park next door, now I have to use their little narrow spot to get to my garage because I hit potholes.
Okay.
But that happened 3-4 times, you guys fill that up, and it won't solve the problem.
So that road's gonna probably need curbs and.
it needs a curb at least on one
Catch
side,
basin.
pitch, so.
You have a drainage on the bottom,
Has to,
and you need a drainage somewhere in the middle
yeah.
to connect, so water doesn't come from the ground up.
Yeah, it's hydraulic pressure coming out the side of the hill. The
Comes right in the
whole
middle
road.
too, and special, in the winter time, the
Yeah.
ice picks it up.
So it's
Now,
not-
I'm very low, my driveway is,
Steve, will you give your address and phone number to our town manager, please?
okay.
So he can follow up with you and make sure.
I would really appreciate you guys do something to that beautification of the whole lake. I mean, make that nice, all see the lake look nice.
Thank you, Steve.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Thank you for waiting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate your patience.
Steve, M-A-T-I-J-E-I-C-H. 7210 West, 131st place. 31st place. 219. 671 1514.
We'll take him over here tomorrow.
Okay. Yeah, I appreciate you guys.
Yeah, that's good, maybe we can see it tomorrow. Yeah, let's see first time.
I've probably been past it because I eat pizza at Rosati's.
Yeah, I like next door, that was the white car.
Okay.
Thank you, Steve. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Steve.
Any other public
God
comment?
bless all of you guys.
You too.
Thank you, you too.
1 second, sir. Mary Jo, go ahead.
Good job.
No, go ahead.
Mary Jo Dixon, 8711 West 132nd Place in Cedar Lake. I was just wondering, what's the price of cleaning up the lake? Do you have a?
5.9 million.
5.9
That's what
million?
the town is putting in.
Actually, the
No,
total
what's the cost of the
total
project?
project budget is just shy of 7 million.
7 million, okay. Because, you mentioned, you said 22 million, you said 25, there wasn't really a clear. And I thought,
Early on.
we need a
That was
clear
early on.
word number out there.
Yeah, so.
You don't want people to think it's.
So between what we're bonding,
Right,
what CLEA's contributing,
Mhm.
the Lair grant, and any additional wastewater funds, it's just shy of $7 million.
Now, is the wastewater gonna not get my drainage project done on 132nd Avenue for the?
That would be your
sixth year?
stormwater.
I meant stormwater, I'm sorry. Stormwater for the 6th year?
No, I know
Where's
what
it
you're
at on the
talking
list? You
about.
told me you were gonna give me a list.
We have it on your list, on
No,
our
no,
list.
you have it on a list, and you were gonna tell me where it's at on the list.
I will get you that.
I appreciate it.
Absolutely, Mary Jo.
He is your councilman.
No, not
No,
the list.
sorry,
Rick
Rick
is.
is.
Good, I'll still get the list. I know that
Anybody,
neighborhood.
I don't care, anybody.
I know that neighborhood well.
Give me that list.
Sir, public comment on your list.
Is it?
For a minute.
David Novacell, 10805 West 134th Place here in town. Fall season started again, and I know this board has been, people have come here several times over the past 10 years, wrote you letters, talked to you. Is there anything we're gonna do this year about all the issues? His father's gonna have to sit there and watch my house burn down because you can't get a fire truck down there. Stuff like that. I mean, it's terrible. Parking signs, try and have a gathering at our houses, we can't. Their parking, according to what I count, can take 80 people. They're renting this out to 200 plus. There's no parking around there. If any of you come over there and watch during this ball, you'd be amazed. Airborne vehicles down my dead-end road, and I'm not lying to you on that one. Come sit in my garage sometime and watch it. There's a dip. If you drive down 134th Place, there's a dip just as you get to the last house on the south side. And they're flying so fast, they hit that dip and come off the ground.
I believe there's one of the park projects there identifies some fencing around Hanover Park. Is that
Well,
correct?
I had pictures, when I confronted you guys, I want to say it was about 2 months ago, maybe 3. I come to you and said I had pictures on my phone where they destroyed it, and I believe somebody went out there and seen it.
Well,
That's the ball field, that's when I was telling you, they're charging for people to park in the park department. Nobody can use that park back there that is a resident during the summer.
Right.
It's completely off limits because the ball field has it packed. All their kids go there, their garbage just goes all over the floor, blows in everybody's yards. I mean, there's several things that's an issue. The most important, getting an ambulance down there to the older people that live on the north side of my street, getting a fire truck. If any of them houses started on fire during a game, they're gone. You cannot get down my street. They're driving in people's yards, they're destroying people's yards. As I said, you could go look at my neighbor's fence. When I went and talked to the people in the ball field, I believe his name was Mark, my wife couldn't be here tonight or I'd have his name, but he said he was the president of the board there for the softball, and he pretty much told me he's not gonna do anything. After they sent all of us residents letters twice, listing what they were gonna do to solve these problems for us. And he said he's not gonna do anything, it's the town's problem, not his. Now, I requested a few months ago to stop allowing him to rent this out until he can prove in front of this board that he can solve these problems. The littering, the parking, the speeding. I don't think that it's any of our problem in here, police department, fire department, or anybody else, to solve the problems for the ball field. And neither do any of the residents that I talk to about this issue. And if you need me to bring them all in, I can fill this place up, and we can all get up here one at a time and talk if you'd like. Or I can talk for all of us in that neighborhood. That's all up to what you guys would like.
We can't ban them from using their property the way they want to use it. That's.
Well, would you allow me to rent my property out to 500 people to have some big organization or something there that I can't handle? All I'm saying is, don't let them rent it out to more people than their facility can handle.
Right, but it's not under our jurisdiction to determine whether or not he can rent his facility. That's what I'm saying, is we can't make a law like that, because then we're limiting the use of private property, which is not something we can necessarily do other than under our zoning laws.
Dave, is there anything that we can do?
Not into the fact pattern I'm hearing.
One thing
Randy's
you
right.
may not be aware of those, David, right?
Yes, David.
About 2 meetings ago, we talked about putting fencing around Hanover Park.
Which that would help that part of the situation.
It's going to be something that we will be pursuing. But short of them having events, having a shuttle bus and not letting people park there, The only solution is shuttle people in.
The only thing we could do from a legislative standpoint is consider some sort of parking restrictions. But then again, that would be something we would have to consider on a broader basis than just one neighborhood too, so.
Well, like, yeah, we can't get mail at all summer long, no
that was
mail, so if we
last-
could get, you know, resident parking only signs up and down that street, maybe we can at least get our mail, and that would keep the parking going on, you know, maybe they won't speed so fast up and down. A lot of them speed because you can't get up and down there, as I said, you can't get the fire truck up and down there. So this guy coming this way is in a hurry, and so is this guy to get there, him to get out. So they're speeding real quick, trying to zigzag in and out, driving up in people's yards. My neighbor's got a circle driveway, and they'll go up into there, making a line, so these guys can go this way.
Mr. Austin.
I mean, it'd be amazing.
From a traffic and parking, legislative standpoint, what are some things in our purview that we can pursue to help remedy some of these public safety concerns that the gentleman brings to us?
You can legislate the, usage of the public right-of-way for parking, speed, any other thing that's deemed appropriate perhaps by your traffic engineering. You cannot go on private property and regulate that. You cannot interfere with or participate in the private use by agreement or lease or however they're doing it, by the organization that owns the land with users. That's outside your purview. So most of your control here is on the public right-of-way and how that's regulated.
How would we come up with some legislation that would apply to this particular neighborhood without creating problems in other neighborhoods as it relates to public parking? Because they're public streets, we have people parking on public streets all over the place, and I don't know if we want to create a piece of legislation that all of a sudden creates a blanket rule for the town, because legislating the exception makes the exception the rule.
Mr. President?
I would agree with that, but, I'm sorry, Chief.
That's all right. I apologize for interrupting you.
But you do have the right to enhance public safety, and you do have the right to control how that
In a
occurs.
particular target area?
Yes.
Okay.
We already do it.
The issue we have at the location is that there's parking on one side of the road but no parking on the other. Because I've personally driven down there when they had these huge tournaments, which is normally the biggest problem when they have these big tournaments. When I've been down there, they're not parked on the wrong side of the road, but they're parking on your side of the road, which is your
blocking the
street side,
mailbox,
which is
yeah.
blocking a lot of stuff. The unfortunate part on doing this would be to ban parking on the street completely because it's small, but that would affect the residents themselves.
Right.
And it would be difficult for us to determine whether or not a car actually belongs to that residence or belongs to, without going up and knocking on the door. Not saying that we can't, but what if you're not home and there's a car sitting in front of that lot and we don't know if it belongs there or not?
So what if I got all the neighbors to come in or sign a paper saying, hey, if we're parked there toast?
That's
So
what
where
I'm
if you
saying.
guys drive down there-
I think because that road is so small that the right thing to do because of ambulance and fire calls is to have no parking on that particular road. It's not very long, on both sides of the road. And the reason for that is 100% safety, not just for the residents, but the ball players that are out there. If there's an ambulance call out there, they're gonna need to get down there.
And it's tough, you've had an ambulance out there before, I don't know if there's any drivers in here, but
Chief,
they've had a heck of a time.
Can the two of you collaborate as well as with our town engineer who kind of manages our traffic in coming up with something for that neighborhood that gives us a little more management tools, a little more enforcement on your part too to make sure
We
that-
have signs up now and we are enforcing them. We started it last year. There's some no parking signs on your road as well as the entrance to the baseball field. But they're limited. They're only in a few locations.
Yeah, where the grass is.
Right.
Yeah.
And so we started enforcing those last year, but I was unfortunately told last year that was the last year for their tournaments that they were hosting, but I'm hearing again that they're gonna host them again, because it's a huge revenue source for them. And that's when they get all these cars, because normal baseball, softball season, they change out pretty quickly. There's usually some relatively decent parking. It probably is not perfect, but it's not bad. But when they have these massive tournaments, everybody's there all at one time.
Yeah,
And they
one
don't
car
have
leaves,
the-
another one's in.
Yeah, they don't have the capacity to hold all them cars.
So can you get us written recommendations so the council consider, a policy initiative for this particular neighborhood?
Yes, sir.
And hopefully our park board continues the pursuit of a athletic complex that's not in your neighborhood.
Well, I know there was talk about that when I brought it up a few months ago, that it's in the talks, but, you know, that's 4 years out.
It'll take a couple of years to
Yeah.
develop something like that.
Right.
So, no, I agree with you, Dave, that
The
there's gotta
unfortunate
be
part,
some
Mr.
happy
President,
medium.
the unfortunate part is when you and I played baseball there, the popularity wasn't there, but the likes of Hanover Central softball team winning state multiple times, the likes of Chief Wilkening's son being, drafted, and his stature in baseball has increased the population in baseball and softball so much that people are bringing their kids here because of those things that are going on. They want their students, their children to have that. And the problem was when we were kids playing ball there was not that many houses there.
We weren't very good either.
And I hate to take it away, because I know, I've had all my kids in ball too. I've been here 23 years, I've seen it grow.
Right.
I've been in that house there 23 years. There's more ball fields there and everything. I've
We
seen it grow.
need a complex, like they said.
But I'm thinking maybe the ball field would do something if they're told, all right, you can't rent this out until you do this now.
You
You give them straight out saying, I won't do nothing, it's not
We
right.
will get a fire truck and ambulance down there, don't worry.
Oh, I'll
If I have to push cars with the fire truck, get them out of the way to get your house.
There you
We're not
go.
gonna worry about it, but and we have gone down there has been issues.
Yeah, it's tough.
But one thing we could talk to the softball league with is about managing their games a little bit differently, where you spread them out and get people in and out, and not have everybody come there and just sit and wait. And that's what happens with a lot of these tournaments, so.
Oh, a lot of them are there all day too.
Yeah, and if you
They'll come and
you
park
go
there.
back, and go home and go somewhere else, and come back, that helps manage and turn things around a little bit, so.
Because they kind of stop the campers.
I had conversation with the president before Martha was the president, and we were gonna, well, whoever was
Vice president.
Yeah, I had a conversation with the president, and
Oh, well, he told me he was, and all he did was scream at me.
we were going to try to have a shuttle
You met
system.
Mark Snicker, like the rest of us.
We were gonna try to have a shuttle system because, Mr. Warnoff had actually volunteered his property out by 133rd to park cars there, and they could walk down the tracks, not on the tracks, but there's an easement that goes all the
It
way to
used to
the
be a
park.
road way back, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
So they were talking about that, but I was told that the softball tournaments were gonna be over, that this was the last season and they were under contract for them. So I said, okay, as long, let us get through the season, but maybe there's more problem to it, but we'll bring you something.
Thank you, chief. Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Dave, can I put a hot dog stand in your front yard?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's not the room.
All right.
I'm trying to get that budget up at like 11 or 12.
We need to get a little more money.
Mr. President, one quick thing. Bill Dudley, who was a business owner in town, Clear Lake Sheet Metal, had passed a week or two ago. He's a longtime member of the yacht club, and I think his wake is this Friday, but I meant to bring that up earlier when I mentioned Jeff as well, but, yeah, he was a figure of our town for many, many years on that, good business.
Thank you, George Sheet Metal.
Yeah, Clear Lake Sheet Metal.
Thank you, John.
This Friday.
Any other public comment? Any other public comment? Third call, Jen, anything online?
No one is on.
Thank you. Next town council public meeting will be Tuesday, March 15th, 2022, 7 p.m., preceded by a utility board meeting at 6:30. This meeting's adjourned.